Digs herself out. Global warming alarmists are still digging in, insisting this is all climate change, which is kind of weird considering 1 year ago this very week, no less than the New York Times screamed this in a headline, the end of snow. The article goes on to say that snow, as we were getting used to it, was just going to be a thing of the past. Well, apparently the headlines across the Northeast proclaiming record snow have not quite jibed with that. Energy expert Chris Horner, columnist Jillian Melcher says climate change alarmists seem to have their head in the clouds or in another place. But what do you think of what's going on here, Jillian, and whether the New York Times just jumped the gun or what?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that they jumped the gun on this. I don't know how they expected it to pan out any differently. I mean, we're talking about New York City here, where a couple weeks ago de Blasio shut down the subway, saying that the weather is going to be just terrible. And, you know, we couldn't even accurately predict that. Now, weather and climate are two different things, but I would argue that climate is much more difficult to predict, as the New York Times article is clearly demonstrating.
Well, but what the New York Times was arguing a year ago, Chris, is that the way we look at things will be a little bit different, and the way we see snow will be a little bit different. But they did clearly spell out snow as we know it just won't be around or as much of it. So they got that one wrong, right?
Well, they're not alone. Remember, it's been at least 15 years since the media have been writing that, for example, in the year 2000, our children won't know what snow is. You cannot reconcile that with, well, this is what we meant all along. They wouldn't know what it was they were digging out of so often.
But not just that, right, Chris? I mean, it wasn't that long ago when I was a much younger man, when I can remember we were worried about the big freeze in the late 70s, and there were Leonard Nimoy documentaries talking about the whole world covered in ice. That was the consensus view of the scientific community, and now it's just the opposite of the scientific community. I'm just saying be careful glomming onto something that you think is 100%, right?
Well, it's a little more schizophrenic than that. It was a cooling panic, then it was a warming panic. They said children won't know what snow is. We had mild winters, and they said, you see, the gods are angry. Appease them with sacrifice and gold through me, and it won't get any worse, and I'll make it stop. Then winter returned, even though they said, if you search the term first casualty of global warming, you'll see several hundred, by the way, but the most prominent is winter and winter weather. When winter returned, they said, this is what we meant when we said there was no more winter. Then it got mild again, and they said, this is what we meant. And then last year and this year. So you'll see it's not reconcilable. They're just claiming, well, what I'm saying is now it's called extreme, so we can focus on it and claim it's your fault again.
Well, I think we live in the moment, right, Jillian? I mean, now we've had horrific a couple of weeks of snow that has been double, triple the averages, particularly in the Northeast. So we glom onto that as this is the new bona fide natural state of things. It could change, but I guess that's why they call it climate change.
It could certainly change. I mean, I think what's interesting about this is they're using it to drive an agenda that really attacks traditional energy sources. But in winters like this, that's when we really need it. I mean, I think natural gas, the explosion of that in the United States has dropped utility bills by $1,200 a month. It's something that's pretty critical and also benefiting the environment by cutting carbon emissions. So I think this is just one place where policy is mismatching with the reality and where we're basing our policy not on good science.
All right, guys, I want to thank you. In the meantime, this snow certainly